Hi, I'm Matt Mulvady from Explorer. In a series of how-to guides for Oracle Forms developers, in this video I'll be explaining how authentication and authorization are handled within Oracle Application Express, and then comparing this to a sample forms application. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate to you today a simple Oracle Forms application. So to run this application, the first thing I need to do is connect. So by connecting in Forms Builder, I'm connecting to the database to authenticate my user. My user will be Scott. Type the password in there, and I'm now authenticated with the database. With Oracle Forms, you can authenticate with the database or with Oracle Single Sign-On. For other authentications, it's a little bit more complicated and more research is needed. So I'm going to run the application now and explain how this works. So when I run the application, I can see all columns of the employees table, and if I press save button here, you'll see that the salary has been incremented by 10% for every time I hit the save button. If I exit this now, I'll explain how this is made. So at form level, I've got a when new form instance trigger. So this goes to the emp block, executes the query so we can see the results, and then I say if not has manager role. If they do not have the manager role, then hide the column salary and then move along the commission and dep no columns to certain XY coordinates on the screen. So let's see how that works. So FN has manager role is a program unit here. If I double click there, this is my authorization. So this would normally be maybe checking for database roles or looking at some table-based access. Mine's just returning a true or false. If I turn that to false and run that now, you can see the salary column has been hidden because this person is not a manager, and my two columns have been moved over to the left just to fill the gap. I was unable to move the scroll bar with my version of Oracle Forms. Let's continue on the when new form instance. So if they do not have the manager role, move the columns across, hide the salary column. If they do have the manager role, then show the salary column, and if it was previously hidden, I need to set the enabled and navigable attributes as well as some other ones: update allowed, update null, and queryable. So I'll compile that. So what happens when we press the save button? So the save button is in two modes. So when we press save, I want to go to the emp block, I want to cycle through all the records. If they have the manager role, then increment the salary by 10%, as we have seen. Otherwise, if they do not have the manager role, then I want to increment the commission by just 1%, and we'll see that working. So this person does not have the manager role, so I can't see the salary column. So if I press save, I can see the commission going up by 1% for every time I hit the save button. And then I exit when I reach the last record. So this code has got a mix of authorization code here, and it's also got a mix of application code where I'm going to certain items and then cycling through the records. Similarly, the when new form instance has the same. It's got the mix of application code as well as authorization code as well. I've built the same application in Oracle Application Express. So when I run the application, I'm asked to log in. So this is my authentication scheme, and I can see my authentication schemes by going to the shared components of my Apex application and clicking on authentication schemes. When I click there, I can see that I have one authentication scheme, and by default, when you create a new application, it has Apex accounts as its authentication scheme. So this means my users are held within Apex itself. Although you can change these and create more authentication schemes. So if I accept the default settings here, I can see some predefined schemes. So I can see straight away that I have Oracle form style database accounts and Oracle Application Server single sign-on. But I also have more. I also have the open door credentials. I can turn authentication off. I can authenticate against LDAP, such as Active Directory. I have HTTP header variables, and what's more, I can create my own custom schemes as well. So if I click on there, I would fill in an authentication function name. So that passes my username and password to a database function and returns a true or false whether I have access or not. So this could be a table-based authentication with a username and an encrypted password, for example. So if I run my application now and log in, I'm authenticating against Apex itself. I can see my employees table here, and I've implemented the same functionality where a non-manager can only update the commission. So if I press save there, these values should increment just slightly by 1%. So we can now add the authentication, the authorization. So if I go to Share Components again, I can go to Authorization Schemes. So I have no authorization schemes, but I can create a new one. So I'll create one from scratch, and this one will be a type of PL SQL function returning a boolean, and I'll call it isManager. So for this first example, I'm going to return false. I need to specify an error message. And I'll create the authorization scheme. So that's now being created as my authorization scheme. So if I edit this page now, I can use the quick edit to go straight to the column that I want, so the cell column, and it opens up Page Designer in exactly that place that I clicked on the salary column. So if I scroll down the settings here to the security section, I can change my authorization scheme to isManager, so only managers can see that salary column. However, my authorization scheme is set as a false, so I will be unable to see that column, and it's disappeared. So not only has it disappeared, but all the columns have been adjusted to fit the width of the whole region there. So I didn't have to programmatically hide things and move the commission and the depth snow column across. Apex did that for me, and I didn't have to write any code for that. I just picked the authorization scheme. Practically everything in Apex has an authorization scheme, from columns to items, regions and more. Okay, let's now look at the save button here. So again, I can quickly edit the save button. It shows me my button. So my button is going to submit the page. So if I look at the processing for submitting, I have one process called update values, which runs when the button save is pressed. On the process, I need to programmatically do one of two things: either update the salary if they are the manager, or if they're not the manager, update the commission. Now, because this is returning a false for is authorized, only the commission should update. So let's have a look at that now. So that's 104. I press save now. That changes to 105. So let's experiment a bit further. Let's go to the Share Components again and Authorization Schemes. So we can edit our isManager now to return a false. Sorry, return a true. And in your code, you'll be most likely getting these authorization schemes from the database, or maybe roles, or it could be LDAP groups. So let's return a true now. If I run the page again, that salary column is no longer there. That's because the authorization scheme has already been assessed and the result already saved in session. So this saves me a round trip to the database to get a value which it already knows about. So to clear the session down and pick up my new rules, I'll need to log out and then log back in again. So now logged in, the authorization scheme evaluates as a true, and I can see this salary column now. And also when I press save, I should see this salary updating by 10% because I am now the manager. So that's updated, and that's stayed the same. For more information, including our blog articles, visit www.explorer-development.uk.com.